I'm Art Kaplan. I'm at the Division of Medical Ethics at the NYU School of Medicine. I should begin by saying I have some conflicts of interest in the work that I do. I've had a connection to a big pharmaceutical company, unpaid, but still giving them advice about how to deal with unapproved drugs that are in short supply, as chairman of a committee that we formed to help handle that problem with this giant pharmaceutical company. And in the past, I've had relationships serving on data safety and monitoring boards with pharmaceutical companies, trying to determine if a study should continue or be prematurely ended because of adverse events or good results. So I know well the world of conflict of interest. But I know something else about conflict of interest, whether it's a doctor trying to write up who they had contact with from the pharmaceutical industry who might have tried to detail them or market, or researchers trying to disclose their conflicts to a journal. We are still back in the 20th century in terms of how we're handling conflict of interest disclosure. We basically say to people, tell us your financial conflicts of interest, and then journals will put it in tiny type in an article if it's a research conflict. Merck, Johnson & Johnson, Novartis, the American Almond Association, whoever, and they'll just leave it there and say Art Kaplan has connections with these organizations and companies. But is that enough? I've told you 2 conflicts of interest that I have, and in fact, I don't deem them very much in the way of conflicts. In fact, I'm rather proud of the work we do in trying to help the big pharmaceutical company ration access to scarce drugs and serving on a data safety and monitoring committee to make decisions about whether a study should continue or stop is something that I think ethicists should do, and it doesn't create any kind of conflict for me, even though they may pay me a per diem to serve on the committee. So there's conflicts, and then there's conflicts, and they're not well handled just by saying Art works with drug company X or Joe has a connection with agricultural entity Y. What we should be doing, I think, and my colleagues agree at NYU Division of Medical Ethics, is starting to use electronic disclosure for conflict of interest. Rather than sending information off to journals or filing it with the Sunshine Act, every one of us could build a website and put down there our relationships with any commercial entities, or for that matter, political entities, religious entities. I guess you could write down there, I've worked with Art Kaplan. I don't like him. He's been my enemy. I try to show that the things he says are false all day long. Any type of conflict you want to disclose or choose to disclose, why don't we get it into longer form, explain what the nature of the work is, and then let people access it on the web. This notion that we put it down on paper and send it to a journal, it seems to me primitive. It's time to move ahead. We call it the electronic long-form conflict of interest idea. Basically saying you've got a web, you can build websites, anybody can disclose as much as they want there in the detail that they want, and then refer people there to see what your conflicts of interest are. So I think we're way past time to get a little elf. Have some help. Let's turn our conflict of interest disclosures electronic. Let's let us go on to the extent we want to, both about financial and other forms of conflict of interest that do arise. And you can explain why certain types of conflicts don't raise problems in your view, and let other people make their judgment. No more paper. Let's take it modern. Let's get into the 21st century. Conflict of interest ought to be a matter for electronic disclosure, and I think that's the way to best proceed in order to best handle complicated and often fairly nuanced problems of conflict of interest. I'm Art Kaplan, and as I say, I've got some conflicts at the NYU School of Medicine. Thanks for watching.